Sing a song, tell a story, whatever you got.
I'm a little nervous because I'm not a big public speaker, although I did teach in front of a classroom for 17 years. I'm not sure I'm going to put all my store hours and sale signs now because these are all definitely going on my wall. I'm very grateful. Thank you so much. I'm super happy and proud to be a part of this organization. I've met so many fabulous people and made many new friends. I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest version of my story as to not bore you. So I was very happy in my career. I was a special ed teacher, dual certified. I taught special self-contained and inclusion, math and science, 6th, 7th, and 8th, mostly 6th and 7th. And things changed. In my life, I had a death in my family. I lost my best friend, which was my mother, and that was in 2011. And unfortunately, that year happened to have been the worst year of my life teaching. And it wasn't just because I was grieving and mourning and trying to get through that. It was the state flipped education right on its head. Common Core came in. The parents were unhappy. Their children were guinea pigs. They were learning things that were a year and a half above their head. They weren't doing well, and they needed somebody to blame. So suddenly we were the bad guys. We were fighting fires all day, no preps. It wasn't teaching. We were teaching to the tests. It was just, it wasn't fun anymore. It was robotic. We couldn't be creative. The kids were not having fun. And it was just then that I didn't share the same ideology of the education system and what was happening with the youth and from administration down as well. I always had my hands in fashion, whether it was creating things, I interior design. It really started as, I'm backtracking a little bit. It started as I have a love for semi-precious stones and semi-precious stone jewelry and things like that. And I started making my own jewelry. I would see things and I was like, oh, I could make that. And I started making it. I'm very crafty with my hands and I like to work with my hands. I can even hang sheetrock, just so you know. I'm very, very handy. I was always in the garage with my father. But I don't know how to cook. Because I was in the garage while my mom was cooking. So I started making my own creations and people would stop me in the store. Oh my God, I love that. Where did you get that? I'm like, oh, I made it. And then they were like, can you make me one? Suddenly I was exchanging numbers with people. And then this passion, this side hobby became a side hustle to jewelry parties, to an Etsy shop. And it was great while it lasted, but it took a long time to make a piece. So then I found myself working all through the night to get ready for jewelry parties, making these beautiful pieces. I had a great time. I took custom orders, but it got overwhelming. So I put that to the side for a while and continued on, I need my plan B because I am not going to be that person that is going to count down my life away. Yes, my job was secure, but to me, I needed to follow my passion. I couldn't go to work every day and feel like a robot, and there was no fire within me, and not fulfill me and my happiness. And ultimately, that was what was important to me, especially after losing my mother at 62. That changed my whole mindset. She didn't get to do the things that she wanted to do. You don't know what the next day is going to bring. And yes, it took a lot of balls, but I knew I had to do it. So what I did was I stayed up, since I was so involved with like loving design and fashion and all that, the jewelry could be secondary, but that's really what I wanted to do. I wanted to get involved in a clothing boutique and make that happen. I'd stay up all night researching. I knew nobody in the industry. I had nobody to fall back on. I built my own website. I learned where to get my clothing. I started hitting the streets in New York City and finding showrooms and all that other stuff and trade shows. And And the things I learned along the way, just by researching and all that, and then I would get up, you know, a couple of hours later, teach all day, and get right back at it. Was I tired? Of course. But the adrenaline, the passion, the drive, the fire inside me was not stopping me. That vision, that goal was not going to stop me. That's what I wanted, that's what I needed, and I could not stay complacent. It wasn't serving anybody, and especially not me. So I launched the website the day after, April 9th, the day after my 40th birthday, on the 15th. So I worked on it for all of 14. I launched the website, and half of 15, launched the website. I was in the interim, I was basically a boutique on wheels. I borrowed my father's van, I would load it up, I hired somebody, we'd go to all the fairs and festivals that were really hot and happening. I built a following, then I was booking Sip and Shop with Seymour Boutique. I did that for 2 years. People were inviting me to charity events to be, you know, one of their vendors, things like that. Again, I was building a following, spreading my website. And my goal was to get out of my home because I wanted to style my customers. I wanted to work with my customers. I wanted to be helping them, interacting with them, and inviting them into a place that was an extension of my home. That was my vision. Not coming into some, like, you know, that was my thing. I don't, you know, you walk into some places and I was like, that's not what it's going to be. Not cluttered, there's stuff everywhere, and what, like, you feel like you're walking into someone's home, and I'm there to greet you and help you, and some of my girls, and just make it a really nice, comfortable, safe environment. It's actually so safe, the women, you know, they stand there naked, they're like, you know, in their underwear and bra with me, and I'm like, it's become that, you know, they know who I am, they know how I care, they know I do not judge. I'm there for them. And so when I was comfortable enough, and I would go on these field trips, and I would go up and down the South Shore, and I would sit in each town, watch the foot traffic, see what the real estate was like, and I did that for a while. Until then, I wanted to be in Patchogue because I saw the revitalization that was happening. They don't have clothing besides Blum's for 99 years. That's what their sign says. And I knew that that would be great because that's like right in the middle of everything, you know, going north, going south, going east and west, like there it is. Everybody's walking around, eating, like they want to shop too. So I sat on the bench at Patchogue, and I went back to Patchogue again. And then the third time I went back to Patchogue, all of a sudden on the, which I didn't even know that they were going to be storefronts at the apartments in New Village, it said prime real estate, commercial, and I was like, what? So I took a picture, I was standing there, I called the guy right away. He came down and met me that following day. I sat down with him. I said, I'm very interested. I want this spot here, and the spot, which was the first door in on the left, now the Cuban's open, so he's the first, but there wasn't a door there. So I wanted the spot that I wanted because nothing was there yet. So I was the first one on the block, ultimately. And I knew I was like freaking out. I'm the first one on the block. Like, how is this going to work out? But I could see it. Like, there's no shopping. Like, I just visualized everything, and it's hard to say because I'm not a psychic. But everything just felt like what I wanted and what I was working so hard for was all falling into place for me. Not just because, obviously I worked for it, but with the Patchogue location in regards to that. Well, that Friday, I was meeting with the builder, sat down, had my business plan, had everything else, and he's like, we want you in. We worked out a number. I was like, that's great. I said, I want that space. I didn't want anything big, obviously. I didn't want anything more than like 1,200 square feet, but it was the only space that was 1,029 square feet. Everything was 15 and up. I snatched it up, and the rest is history.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm very happy. Obviously, I'm still trying to elevate my business. It changed my life. I'm like to say that when the women keep coming back in and sending all their friends in, it's a lot of word of mouth. People are still not used to that there's shops at New Village. Now that we're getting a lot of exposure to Cuban finally opened, you know, because it's on the corner, and it's like now like, oh, that's where Seymour is, or that's where, you know, Salon Brio is. It's really a great thing. So if you want something bad enough, and I know a lot of you in this room went through a lot of the same thing, you have to put the dinner invites aside. You have to stay up all night. You have to kick your heels in the dirt. You have to sweat in 110-degree weather at Bald Hill in a heat wave with your clothing in the sun and you in the sun, driving around in a van with clothes and figuring it all out. But research, hard work, drive, ambition, and not quitting to get to your goals is everything. And that's how I got there. I'm so grateful for this award. And I'm actually surprised only because I'm a pretty humble person.
Now we know she's Jenny from the block. I'm just saying. So, I mean, I learned that today.
Yeah, I'm Jenny from the block, so I was the first
That
one
shouldn't be
there.
right now.
But you know, I stuck it out. So I went through that like, oh God, I'm trying to get everybody to understand that his shop's at New Village too. I'm trying to get everybody to understand this is Avens Avenue. You know, so that was, I knew that was going to be a challenge. So now I just celebrated in April, on April 28th, my second year. And hopefully things are just gonna keep getting better and better. And you should come down and see me. I'll style you, help you. There's something for everybody, for real. And there was one other thing I wanted to say.
Swag bag? You have a thing in the swag bag?
Oh yeah, I have coupons in the swag bag for you. I think it's 10 or 15% your entire order when you come down. And thank you so much, and thank you for all being here. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Power. Thank you, girls. And I'm sorry if I'm like being weird. I'm really shy.
You did awesome, girl.
Thank you.